I started reading Naruto expecting cool fights and the classic shonen stuff that I've heard about from other people. But only a few volumes into the series, a character was introduced and honestly caught me completely off guard. This character was Haku. Haku was a quotations villain in Naruto, but he, wasn't written like your typical villain. He's not angry or seeking revenge. The thing is that he doesn't even really care about himself. His self-worth is non-existent, which is what makes his story deep and depressing. By the end of the Land of Waves arc, Naruto realizes something for the very first time. He realizes that some people in the world aren't really treated like humans, but are treated more like tools, which is exactly what Haku is to Zabuza. Something that immediately stood out to me was how calm Haku was. In comparison to Naruto, it's clear as day. When Naruto first meets him in the forest, I'm not counting Naruto seeing him in battle because he was a masked shinobi at that point and couldn't see his face, but in the forest, Haku doesn't seem dangerous at all. It's the opposite of what you'd expect from the enemy. He's soft-spoken, polite, and basically comforts Naruto. And this is what makes it so hard to believe that this is the same person that's fighting alongside Zabuza. But at the same time, the contrast is what makes Haku work so well, because underneath all of that kindness is someone who completely gave up on themselves and gave up on living. Haku's an extremely layered character, meaning that throughout the arc, we're able to see more and more of the layers peeling off of Haku to really understand his story and his background. Alright, so now let's talk about Haku's childhood. Haku was born with ice-style fighting abilities, which made people fear him from a very young age. His father discovered the truth about Haku and his mother and literally killed her after finding out. So this is what sparked the trauma of Haku from an early age. It completely destroyed Haku's sense of self-worth. And moving on, Haku meets Zabuza, and guys, their relationship is tragic. It's one of the most heart-wrenching stories out there. I literally felt like I got punched in the gut while reading this, no joke. But even though the relationship is what it is, you understand why Haku follows him. It's because Zabuza was the first person who gave Haku a reason to exist, a reason to live. Zabuza gave Haku purpose, and this purpose distorts Haku in a way fundamentally, because Haku at his core is a kind person, but his purpose in Zabuza creates a contradiction, so it's really tough. You see, the problem with this here is that the reason wasn't friendship or family, it was usefulness. It was to use Haku as a tool. Zabuza saw that he could benefit from bringing Haku along with him, so he did so. Not necessarily out of kindness, but purely out of self-benefit to help him and his goals and his own agenda. Haku genuinely believes that all of his value derives from his ability to help somebody else. It's one of the saddest mindsets that a character can have, and especially from somebody this young. And honestly, I'm sure it's relatable to viewers, as I know I've derived my self-worth from things that I shouldn't have. And it opens perspective and reflection for the reader. Every fight that Haku enters and every sacrifice made, it all comes from the belief that his life only matters if he can be a useful weapon for his master, Zabuza. This is the turning point where Naruto changes. Before this arc, Naruto's view of the world is pretty simple. Naruto starts out as a simple-minded character, but grows immensely as time passes. His view right now is that bad guys are bad and good guys are good. But Haku completely shatters this idea. This idea is flipped on its head because Haku isn't cruel at all. Even during the fight, you get the feeling that Haku doesn't even actually hate Naruto, as you can see by his actions, or even inaction. Don't think that Naruto doesn't notice this, because he does. For the first time in the story, Naruto meets someone who's technically his enemy, but deep down, he feels sorry for. This is important to keep in mind because Naruto understands loneliness. If anybody understands loneliness, it's this guy, Naruto. And due to this empathy, it makes Naruto such a profound and lovable character. He understands suffering on an intimate level. He understands wanting acknowledgement from other people, but Haku takes those feelings to an absolutely horrifying level. Let me explain. Haku doesn't even think that his own dreams matter anymore one single bit. Next follows the moment that completely changes this arc. Haku steps in front of Kakashi's attack to save Zabuza. It's a brutal scene to say the least. Naruto's reaction is why? He cannot understand why Haku would do something like this. Why would someone sacrifice their own life for a person who didn't even treat them as a human, but instead as a tool? And that's why Naruto's emotions come flooding out afterward. Not because Haku lost, but because Haku believed that dying for Zabuza was the only thing that his life was worth. period. Naruto hates that. In fact, he hates what the ninja world has turned Haku into, which was a child who stopped valuing himself as a human being. And so what makes Haku memorable isn't just the sadness in this story, but it's the fact that his story feels completely unfair. Life's unfair. I'm sure you've all heard this before. Everybody grows up and is put in different situations. Some are more fortunate than others, and some are more unfortunate than others in a multitude of ways and aspects. Haku was always a gentle, kind, compassionate person, but the world convinced him otherwise, and that those qualities didn't really matter. The world convinced him what was on the inside of his heart didn't matter. What the world convinced him was that all that mattered was his ability to provide and how he could be useful to others. And that's what makes the ending of this arc hit so hard, because even to the very last breath, Haku's biggest concern was not himself. It was Zabuza. It was always Zabuza. It was always only ever Zabuza. So only a few volumes into Naruto, and Haku completely shifts the entire tone of the series in a dramatic fashion. He turns the story from a fun ninja shonen adventure into something way more emotional and deep. Because Haku proves in Naruto that the saddest characters aren't always the villains necessarily, but instead it's the people who were never taught that their own life had value. And this, my friends, is how Haku broke Naruto. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to stick around and watch another video, a couple of them will be popping up on the screen, and I'll see you guys next time.